A guy came up to me the other night, right, and he was like, "Who is your favorite artist?" And like most people do when they ask you a question, he really didn't care about my answer, and proceeded to tell me about what he thought the true answer was, and continued on about a struggle to recognize who he said was the greatest of all time. He said, is it Shakespeare, is it Frost, Picasso, Michelangelo, is it the Beatles, Rembrandt, Michael Jackson, Beethoven, and he went on and on and on about who he thought was the greatest, not recognizing his infrastructure to answer that question was misled and outdated. So finally, I kindly smiled and said, "Okay, sir, you asked me who the greatest of all time is. Now you tried to share yours, so let me share mine."
Because there is no debate about who is the greatest. Because all those other artists you mentioned, yeah, the greatest made them. And see, this artist, he's a beast, a lion, the name above names. You don't even realize it, but you encounter his art every day. And he deserves all of the acclaim. He deserves all of the fame because all other artists pass away, but he remains. Oh, and by the way, his name is God, Yahweh, Creator, your Maker. He's indefinitely creative, sir. There is no one greater. And I can tell, it looks like you're starting to get mad at me. But don't be jealous just because your favorite artist might bend words, but my favorite artist bends galaxies.
See, in the palm of his hand, he holds all the sand, the author of life when he whispered, "Let us make man." See, what if I told you you are God's poetry? You were created because someone else was creative. See, long ago, God picked up his eternal paintbrush, dipped in his glory, put us in his story, and said, "They will live for me." And I know it sounds outlandish, but we are not the product of random chances. In fact, we are not even the vine. We are actually the branches. In the same way, we are not the artist. We are actually the canvas, because in an instant, God decided to make art, shaped you uniquely and beautiful individual from the start, and he touched the canvas of flesh and said, "This one is better than the rest. I'll give him so much of my image, so even when they're hot off the press, you can still see the steam of my breath."
And so he crafted, and he made every arm and leg, ligaments, tendons, muscles, blood vessels, veins, arteries. He said, "They are going to have a part of me." And about that time, the guy butted back in and said, "That sounds good and all, but I'm wretched and filthy. God won't use me, will he?" And I said, that's what's awesome about God. No matter what we've done, he can still use us. And even though other artists, once they've broken equipment, they start to make excuses, God instead doesn't refuse us, and neither does he accuse us. He redeems us in Jesus, promises never to lose us.
So stop saying you're dirt. Stop saying you're scum of the earth. You ought to be careful how you talk about someone else's work. Because if we trusted in Jesus, we could stop saying we're filthy. After all, that is just pride clothed in false humility. If we truthfully believed we are created in his likeness, we could stop saying we are wretched, filthy, shameful, guilty. Because if we trusted in Jesus, we are righteous.
We are drawn to repentance because of his kindness. So how dare you call yourself worthless when he says you're priceless? And the best part is, since God is ultimately for God, he will get glory out of you whether you like it or not. Because even temple ruins point to you, an architect, even if the temple is shot. And all I'm saying is, he's behind it all. So why do we insist on giving him no credit at all?
He is the one that gave Van Gogh the imagination that changed the face of painting. Tell me who else is responsible for Mozart being able to compose at age 5 without formal training. See, he made the fingers that Beethoven used to make art on the keys. For Pete's sake, he made Stevie Wonder, one of the best musicians of our time, and he couldn't even see. And in the same way that our lives are borrowed time, this poem is borrowed lines, because the most ridiculous statement we can say is that this poem is mine. Because we are not self-sustaining, no, we are not self-creating. Technically, nothing we do is original, we are just imitating. And that is not a diss. All I'm trying to say is this: even our own creativity is no more than an outflow of his.
So let me just say this. And you know the quote about giving credit when credit is due? Well, if that's true, it's about time we give God his rightful credit too. Because he's a God in the business of making all things new. And here's the truth. He is not through with making a masterpiece.